Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The man who's honored us as chief guest this evening stunned the world in 2008 when he became the fourth president of the Republic of Maldives by defeating the incumbent who'd been in power for 30 years. Many believed at the time that he had not just defeated a man, but in fact had defeated an entire era. But unsurprisingly, this is not the most interesting thing about this man. He was a former journalist. I think at the last count, he'd been to prison over 20 times. He conducted the world's first underwater cabinet meeting, and the beautiful Amal Clooney decided to be his lawyer. He's respected and known throughout the world as a champion in the fight against climate change. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the chairman and the management of the Capital Maharaj organization, I'm hugely honored to invite on stage the fourth president of the Republic of the Maldives, Mr. Mohammad Nasheed, to address all of us. Sir.
Chairman, Mr. R. Raj Mahendran, ministers, diplomats, members of the parliament, and most importantly, the executives of the Maharaja Group, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. So many have stood here before me. Presidents, prime ministers, outstanding personalities from the world of sport, arts and faith, activists, musicians, teachers, doctors, and engineers, you name it. Everyone has been here. People who have done so much in life and contributed so well to society have all stood here before. Tonight, I stand here dwarfed with the weight of history. This is the 41st convention of this type of the Capital Maharaja organization. It's an honor and a pleasure for me to be here. I thank the chairman, the directors, and all those who gave me this opportunity to say a few words here tonight. Any analysis of the immediate post-colonial economies of South Asia will commend South Asian entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs who were instrumental in receiving into the local the colonial business structures and methods. The development of the received businesses undoubtedly played a critical role in making the post-colonial nation-state viable. Mr. Chairman, the Maharaja Group and the family, your role in the success of the post-colonial nation-state is without equal. I thank you as a citizen of the open Indian Ocean state, the Maldives. For effective resource allocation, profit motive is certainly important. I come from a center-right political thinking. The chairman of this group, the Maharaja Group, is obviously in business, not just for business. Our admiration for the group have plenty of reasons. I am a former prisoner of conscience, and the defense of free speech and multicultural society, I must mention as my reasons, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, while the Maldives is in crisis, let me give a little indication on where things stand between both our countries. Sri Lanka's total receipts from the Maldives, I believe, would stand over $1 billion a year. This will include receipts from trade, profit repatriation, from expatriate employment, and many others. Meanwhile, Colombo has the second largest concentration of Maldive people anywhere, our capital Male being the first. In government, our policy was to further encourage the closeness in trade and friendship between both our peoples. Currency convertibility, ease of investment, ownership of land, defense cooperation, and unrestricted employment were just some areas that our government were in discussion with the Sri Lankan government. But now we are in crisis. President Yamin has come to power. He has purged his own party, initially arresting his own defense minister, Colonel Nazim. Then he went on to arrest all political leaders, including yet again me. He did not stop there. He arrested his own vice president. He fell out with his own brother, former President Mohammad, whom he has jailed for good measure, along with the Chief Justice and another member of the Supreme Court. He has got the military to occupy the parliament. He has dismantled the Supreme Court. He has declared martial law. Mr. Chairman, he has overrun the state. And we have elections later this year. But I'm afraid this is the standard menu that has been dished out for us for the last so many years. Mr. Chairman, this is not the real crisis. The real crisis in the Maldives springs from two recent developments. Firstly, the development of a state within the state of the Maldives by the ISIS. Secondly, attempts by Eastern emerging powers to change state type with a view to drive land grab. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, this is all very sad and bad. What's happening in the Maldives is heartbreaking. But tonight, I have come here to ring a more important alarm in my view. Each year, scientists give out new records of categories such as the hottest year overall, the most severe flood since records began, hottest winter, hottest day, or the biggest loss of sea ice, or the strongest winds. It's like a night in the Oscars. A challenge for politicians, especially from the political center, is to find a way to deal with the growing threat from climate change, while also revitalizing our economies and ensuring our policies don't become extremist. I think the key question that will dominate the next few decades is, can we find ways to reduce greenhouse emission, adapt to higher temperatures, while also generating inclusive economic growth? Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, I believe we can. We have always fought against the odds and have won it. We formulated the first democratic government in the Maldives. We did that against the odds, and I believe that if we try, we can again win against the odds. I believe we can have the same economic outcomes through low-carbon development strategies. We can have full employment, low inflation, high GDP growth, but through different economic patterns and methods. There are plenty of trends we can predict. The decision by German politicians in the early part of this century to invest in solar power was the seed for the creation of a viable renewable energy industry. Chinese manufacturers got on board, and the price of renewable energy collapsed. This made the economics more attractive, which made it easier for generate further political will in other countries, and that made the Paris Accord possible. By the time Paris Accord was signed at the end of 2015, the price of solar had fallen by 60%. When we in government announced the Maldives carbon neutral plan in 2009, most people thought I was mad. They never believed we could produce electricity from renewables cheaper than we were generating with diesel. What a difference 8 years make. It is now clear that solar and battery hybrid systems will produce electricity cheaper than diesel on any given situation. When batteries follow solar panels in fall in price, then distributed energy systems could be transformative. This will be hugely relevant, especially for developing countries that don't have big electricity grids. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, it's not just energy production. There are more sustainable and economically feasible methods in almost every area: housing, transport, leisure, and for every type of climate adaptation. We must come up with a low-carbon development manifesto. A manifesto that will make realistic and economically viable pledges to our people. Mr. Chairman, we must fight. There is no planet B, and there is no option B or plan B. Thank you.
Nasheed, now that we have you here, captive, I want you for a few more moments, please. You've been beaten up, you've been imprisoned, you've spoken at the UN.
Be nice to me.
I'll try. You've delivered an address to the UN, you've spoken on international forums. Why do you keep doing it? What wakes you up every morning and what drives you?
Well, standing here, especially with these colleagues, the executives of the Maharaja Group and the family, it's fairly easy to say it. Never give up. Never, never, ever give up hope. And you can win it. You can always fight against the odds, and you can win it.
Now, you've been a president of a small nation, just like Sri Lanka. And I'm sure you've grappled with regional powers, massively influential nations. How did you do it?
Well, me becoming a president, I think, was an accident in history. But I could see where you are getting at. We have, in my view, a very serious issue that faces a number of countries. That is what we are now calling land grab. The prescription seems to be the same. The first step is change state type. Get hold of an autocratic fellow, back him in power, change state type, and get unsolicited contracts. Increase the price of these contracts, and then build them through build, operation, and transfer. You would be bringing your money, but you would have to pay it back. The prices are so increased that it is made sure that we can't pay it back. So you go into your classical debt trap, and when you cannot pay your debt, they ask for equity. And in the process, you give up, you relinquish your sovereignty. This is happening in the Maldives, and I am aware of what is happening in the Maldives, and I will keep on talking about this, and I am talking about China.
Okay, forthright words as always. President Nasheed, we have former presidents in Sri Lanka who have designs to be future presidents. You are a former president. Do you have designs to be president again?
Well, yes, we have presidential elections coming up this September. As usual, I am unable to yet contest. But this goes on until the 11th hour, and when then finally they will say that I can contest. And I hope to win it again. I think it is very important that I do contest, and I am going to contest and hopefully win it again.
President Nasheed, for the inspiration you are, for your sacrifice, for your global vision, for your local touch, and most importantly, for your humility. Thank you for honoring us with your presence tonight.
Thank you.